So in this movie, a demon hunts an autistic boy. So finally, a movie for you gamers. But no, really. This is actually a horrifying concept of a nonverbal autistic child being haunted by some kind of entity and basically trying to get across the horrors that he's experiencing without actually being able to speak. Which is absolutely unnerving as hell. This is a movie called Come Play. I found it on Amazon and I kind of just really liked the way that the monster looked in it. He kind of looked spooky, as much as, of course, the CGI could be much better, but we get what we get. And for all of you that might know me, you do know that I clearly appreciate a horror movie that's willing to take chances, willing to try something new for fucking once. Because most movies are just rehashes of previous movies. A lot of movies just use old footage and old nostalgia to bring us back to a movie instead of just goddamn trying something cool for once. And when I saw this movie, that's totally what I thought, so I wanted to give it a try. So let's fucking watch it. This movie does have the trope in it that so many horror movies do, that this child is experiencing terrible things and we might be able to assume that they're happening in his dreams, but we all know they're not, and the parents never hear a single bit of it. But we get to why they didn't hear a single bit of it, and that's because they have marital issues. Very surprising. This creepy story kind of just suddenly appears on his phone one night, which we've established his phone is his only mode of communication with his family. Anyway, creepy story appears, and it's apparently about an entity named Larry. Interesting choice for the name of a demon. Love that for him. He likes his name, I guess. But he starts reading this creepy story and probably getting more and more creeped out, and all of the lights in the room get knocked out around him, but somehow he is still in the brightest room known to mankind. He gets scared, and his mom tells him that it was just a bad dream, because that's what all parents say in every single horror movie. The autistic kid gets made fun of at school. That is very shocking. I really need a movie where, like, the popular kids get bullied. But, you know, we've all seen... It's like Prom Night or something? Final. But we all have seen that movie called The Final, and we all know what happens when the popular kids actually get harassed. It's pretty cool. Anyway, back to the movie. It seems implied that the demon is in his phone, which is kind of creepy. You guys know, I hate this, but I did pick up on the symbolism in this movie very early. It's about getting off your phones, people. About living through your phone makes you a very lonely, isolated individual, which is clearly what this movie is trying to get across. Boom, I didn't really spoil anything because it's very obvious that's what this is about, and for the 30 of you that watch this video, who cares if I spoil this goddamn movie? Since the kid gets bullied at school, his mom thinks it would actually be a good idea for some kids to come over for a sleepover. Maybe he can make some friends. And surprise, it's the bully kids from earlier in the movie. The creepy Larry story appears on one of their iPads, and one of the bully kids starts reading it out loud. All of the lights go out and the kids start screaming, and the mom absolutely hears none of this. So that's very concerning. And they finally see Larry, and he's curled up in the corner looking as creepy as ever, but they can only see him through the lens of the iPad, which I do like that touch. It's kind of like that movie where you could only see the monster appearing through like Polaroid film. It's kind of like that. It was creepy. And one of the bully kids gets this table shoved into him and starts screaming bloody murder. The mom finally gets up and tries to figure out what the hell's wrong with the children. And all the kids obviously want to go home because they're scared out of their fucking mind. They tell all their parents that the poor autistic boy was the problem this whole time, which is kind of shitty because obviously they all saw this demon monster, but I guess they obviously don't think that their parents are going to believe them if they say they saw a demon monster. The mom's very much upset by this, obviously, but next morning she comes home with a bunch of light bulbs to replace all the light bulbs that blew out. She finds the Larry story and starts reading through it, only to find out that Larry just replaces all the bulbs in the house for her, so I guess that's nice of him. I can really get behind at least that this movie is not the whole gaslighting story that we usually see with all other horror movies, where the family and the family members of the house just gaslight for like 95% of the movie before they actually start to assume that something's happening. You know, everyone here individually is experiencing something, not just the poor autistic kid. Like, even the dad, who we find out he's a parking attendant and he's checking tickets, and then there's just this huge wind happening, and you just see this, like, figure standing in the background, even though he's never even read the Larry story yet. It's just kind of off-putting, and I appreciate it. One of the moms of the bully kids says that her child hasn't talked since the incident, and she's obviously very alarmed by this. She calls over the kid's mom to basically see if maybe she can get him to talk. This is when he finally reveals that it wasn't the poor autistic child, it was Larry that was doing this to them. This is when our mom basically tells her estranged husband that this has been going on, and he clearly doesn't believe her because he hasn't read the Larry story or seen it yet. He then inevitably reads the story in front of his son, proudly trying to convince his son that there's nothing to be scared of, even though we all know that there is very much a thing to be scared of. The son then walks outside and comes face to face with the demon, or face to stretchy hand with the demon. To which the dad then shortly comes in contact with Larry as well, so at least now we're all on board that Larry does exist and there is going to be no further gaslighting. That was quick, and that's good. They get the decent idea, at least I think it is, to smash the iPad in the hopes that it's going to destroy whatever demon might be inside of it. But you know, this is a demon and not just an iPad, so obviously that's just a thought and that's not actually going to work, but I do appreciate the effort they put into it. The next day, the dad's at work, and surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, Larry shows up at his job. And Larry just kind of obviously controls all of technology and power, which I fucking love that. It's horrifying. This includes the cars too, so just imagine all of the power going off in this parking lot. And then imagine you just came back from like a night on the town and you're just gonna go pick up your car, pay for parking, but a fucking demon drained the battery from your car. You hate to see it. The dad obviously takes off because he's horrified and starts driving down the road, and Larry is following him, basically removing all the power in his wake, which is very creepy. And this causes him to get in a car accident. Don't worry, he makes it. But this will move us to our final showdown, baby! With the good old Larry boy and the child and his mother. Larry reveals to him that his whole goal is to come into the real world and he must leave with a person, otherwise he will not go back. And when he takes that person, they will obviously be removed from this plane of existence. He finally gets his big showdown and he gets to come into the real world, and obviously he's quite horrifying. But the demon Larry, he wanders the house as slowly as demonly possible, so we can have, you know, our very tense sequence, because we all know after this we're going to have a chase sequence on our hands, because I've watched my good fair share of movies, and I see it coming. We have our final chase sequence in the field, and this is probably the most unaerodynamic demon that I've ever seen. His limbs are like 7 feet long. They should be able to run much faster. But movie ends with the mother sacrificing herself and giving herself to the demon so that he will in fact leave her child alone. And then at the end, all the boys are friends because, you know, they've had this shared demonic experience, and they say that they're all going to be friends forever. And they're probably just going to stay off their phones because that's what Larry taught them. You know, moral of the story, your mom has to get taken by a demon for you to be like, hey, I need IRL friends, I need to get off my phone. I guess that was the point of the movie. But anyway, that was our lovely little commentary of Come Play, and I actually really enjoyed this movie. I thought that the demon was kind of cool, even though it did include symbolism, which we all know I fucking hate that, but I could look past that because I thought it was pretty neat. So you could give it a watch if you'd like, and of course, please let me know if you'd like me to watch anything. I'd love to watch a movie for you on this channel if you want me to. And as always, please do subscribe and interact with this video. It means so much to me. And thank you guys. See you soon.